bad dates of Melbourne. Hi Ali. It's not really a date, but a funny story. I ran into a friend of a friend who I'd had a few drunken hookups with before. We were both very well sourced and naturally ended up back at his place. We did the deed and passed out. Fast forward to who knows what time. I wake up and I'm busting for the loo. I knew roughly where his end site was, but I was still drunk and it was pitch black. Being in an unfamiliar environment, I tried to find the bathroom door but missed. Instead I walked straight out of his room and tumbled down the stairs. Even more disorientated and with new carpet burns on my bum, I find myself standing at the bottom of a staircase, stark naked, barely comprehending where I was. Still desperately needing to pee, I decide to walk through the closest door. When I get inside, I can just make out that it's a bedroom. I think I stood there for a good minute. I then found my way back to the guy's room and then to the bathroom. But not before I tripped over his snowboard, landing flat on my back. The next time I saw him, I admitted to my nocturnal adventure. Turns out it was his housemate's bedroom I wandered into. Fortunately he didn't mention a naked girl standing in his room in the middle of the night. I decided to get back into the swing of things, so as every self-respecting human does, I got on Tinder. I felt like a queen. I had matches coming in hot. I start chatting to one fine fellow and promises of wining, dining, and romancing are laid out. I oblige. I doll myself up, wax the old welcome mat, you know, the works. The night arrives, and he messages and tells me to wait out front cause I don't wanna get out. Chivalry at its finest. I don't really need to be pampered, so I wait out front. For 25 minutes. He finally arrives, dusts the McDonald's wrappers from the front seat and throws his tool belt and grotty socks into the back seat to make room for me. I swear I can taste the socks as I get in. He tells me I look a bit dressed up for where he wanted to go. I tell him he looks a bit dressed down for anywhere. He's wearing Everlast tracksuit pants and Ugg boots. We then drive to Red Rooster. He's pissed they don't have a drive-thru. I eat my Ripper roll in silence while he laughs at the guys in his group chat. I tell him I'm just ducking to the bathroom and left. Bailed. Ran. Adios. He messages about 20 minutes later asking, what are you taking a dump? I reply, kind of. Block, delete, bye. This date gets a 4/10. I chatted to a guy on Bumble for a few days. We made a plan to go for a late night drink, but on the night in question I was at a very drunk and in a party that was running quite late. Ill-advisedly, my friends convinced me to invite him over. When he arrived, my male friends sat him on the couch and started grilling him on his intentions. It would have been awkward for anyone, but he looked particularly perplexed, was giving some really odd answers, and was sweating a lot. I took him outside and asked if he was okay. He confessed he was off his face. We went back inside, where we were having cheesecake. A piece of cheesecake was thrown, then an all-out cheesecake fight erupted. There was cheesecake all over the place. He freaked out, grabbed onto me, I slipped on the cheesecake, and landed on my chin. There was blood everywhere. I told him to leave, went into the toilet to try and stop the bleeding, then threw up. I went out the front to get some air. He's out there in the front garden, crying. I ask what he's still doing here. He tries to kiss me, then finally leaves. The next day I wake up covered in blood, cheesecake and smelling of vomit. I look at my phone, there's a message from him. Last night was really fun. Let's do it again soon. So I was chatting with this guy on Tinder. Everything was great. He was funny, charming, smart. A catch right. We decide to get together for lunch. We meet outside of the restaurant, exchange pleasantries and walk inside. As we get seated and place our orders, I hear words that should be forbidden on any first date. I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping you would be thinner than in your photos. But it's okay, you still look good. I'm just not usually into bigger women. At this point my size 14 ass knew I was dealing with a shallow drip, so I did the only thing my dignity allowed me. I gave him a big smile and said, "Oh no babe. It's actually a magic trick. Watch as I make 70 kilos disappear." I got up and walked out of the restaurant, blocking his number on the way to my car. Baby llama don't need that body shaming drama. I went away last summer and sublet my apartment. On my return, I got home, started unpacking and had a cuppa craving. I walked to the kitchen to pop the kettle on and lo and behold, it's not there. I turn to my mate who's with me and am like, "Mate, am I jet lagged? And my kettle is there, but I just can't see it?" She says she can't see it either. So we start hunting around and come to the conclusion that the subleasee took the kettle. I asked him about it and he said he thought it was his, among a few other homewares. Eventually he blocked me as he seemed to dislike confrontation about stolen goods. Anyhow, he never returned it, but I used his bond to buy myself a nice new kettle. Fast forward to last week, when I signed up to eHarmony. The kettle stealer comes up as a what if suggestion. My answer to that was most certainly not. I was tempted to send him a smile, so I could message him to follow up on my kettle and Kmart bowls one last time. A message to the women who date eHarmony kettle guy: don't let him woo you with his kettle and crockery. Ask for receipts. I was 22 and had just broken up with my first boyfriend when I decided to jump on this new thing called Tinder. I was, looking back, very insecure, but I matched with a cute boy who shared my interest in music. He offered to pick me up and take me for some food so we could meet in person. Trying to play it cool, I agreed without confirming any details other than my address and proceeded to wait and wait and wait. Now is probably a good time to mention that I suffer from anxiety, so the situation I found myself in was literal torture. I had got ready in the morning in case he planned to take me to lunch, and I sat around for hours and hours. I held off messaging because I didn't want to seem unchill, but I eventually bit the bullet and sent him a message to see where he was. He replied after 30 minutes saying he was getting home from work at 3ish, would then get ready and head over. I thought, cool. Dinner sounds great. So I continued to wait. It got to around 8:30 PM and still nothing. I finally decided to message again, to which he said, "Oh yeah, I'm not coming." By this stage, my nerves had transformed into a full-blown panic attack. All these awful things were running through my head. I wondered if there was something wrong with me. It took me ages to regain the confidence to try dating again, but from there on, I knew that it was okay to set expectations and to never allow someone to disrespect me. I'm that organized person who makes dates and actually keeps them. Know your worth. I'd organized to go on a date with a guy I had been talking to on Tinder. So I get to the bar we'd agreed on and there I realized he'd brought a friend. His friend seemed nice enough, though I thought it was a bit weird that he didn't give me a heads up that there'd be a third wheel. But I'm there now, so I grab a drink and try to engage in conversation. Everything I said got a dead end answer from my date. I was grateful that his friend was there. He actually made the situation less awkward. Just as we all start to get slightly more comfortable, they see a friend walk by. She sits down to have a drink with us. They are all sharing insider jokes. I'm just sitting there trying to keep up, when suddenly my date gets up and says he's going to grab another beer. But instead of going to the bar, he walks away and just keeps walking up the street and around the corner, never to return. Shortly after, the girl who joined us left, so it ended up just me and the third wheel guy. We got on well. It was too bad he was already in a relationship. He tried to make me feel less awkward about the weird night and apologized about his friend's disappearing act. I went home feeling a bit confused. I messaged my date to tell him what I thought of him. YOLO. I found out later that the girl who came to join us was his ex, who he strongly disliked. He felt she was trying to embarrass him. Nonetheless, it was a firm no on having a second date from me. Hey Ali. This is kind of a long one, but stick with me. I was nursing a broken heart after my long-term boyfriend broke up with me. I drove 40 minutes to this guy's house, who I'd spoken to for maybe 2 days. He told me to park in his garage when I got there because he didn't have a car. The garage thing should have been red flag number 1, but not for this chick caught up in the D***CKSAND. I arrive and he's nice enough, but there's a single mattress with blankets set up on the lounge room floor. He said he'd just moved in and hadn't set his bed up yet. Plausible, I guess. But in reality, red flag number 2. One thing leads to another, but the good times were short-lived. He apologized and suggested we go get donuts. On the way to 7-Eleven he says, "Let's go have a poke real quick," and begs me to drive to the nearest poke venue. I watch as he stuffs $200 through more chili and wins absolutely nothing. I only sat through it for the promise of Krispy Kreme, but as we were walking to the car, he says, "I just spent our donut money." Honestly, I was more devo at that than the lack of action. Anyway, back at his house, he passes out almost as soon as we get back, so I decide to have a shower. As far as I knew, he had just broken up with his partner, who he had a daughter with, and had just moved to this place. However, in the shower, there's scented body wash and professional hair products. I open the bathroom cupboards to snoop. There's cosmetics, fake tan, pads, tampons and kids shampoo. I crept out of the bathroom and opened a closed door in the hallway. It was the master bedroom he shared with his partner. There was a picture of them above the bed with their daughter and her perfume bottles on the bedside table. It gets worse though. I opened another door and it was his daughter's room. But there was no mattress on the bed. I then remember the lone mattress in the lounge room where we'd been together. The mattress we were on was off his daughter's bed. I'm horrified and start to get my stuff to leave. He wakes up and says, "Hey, you better go, because my ex is bringing my daughter by soon, and it's too early for you to meet her." I'm like, "Yep, sweet," and head for the door. As I'm reversing out of his driveway, he comes running out of the house towards me, waving his arms for me to stop. "Hey wait, can you drive me to the bottle O?" Oh man. I blocked him on everything. I've been off online dating ever since. I met up with this guy when I lived in regional Victoria. He was lovely. 100% sweetheart. We went for a day trip through the Otways. I decided to drive. Tunes, some snackage, chats and all that. Things were looking good. Until my car blew a head gasket. In the middle of the Otway Ranges. Without any phone reception. F***CK. I'm rather anxious at this point, and somehow my date is rather chilled about the entire thing. A motorist noticed I was having difficulty, the steam billowing from my exhaust an apparent indication of our difficulties, and he pulled over. I was nervous about hitching, but he offered us a lift to the nearby town, and we safely arrived. A lunch of fish and chips was found. My date continued to be sweet, and my anxiety didn't seem to be an issue despite my car being beyond repairable. His parents had to come and get us and drive us the 2+ hours back home. In the end, it just wasn't right, you know? Nothing against him, but I don't think we were each other's type. It obviously wasn't a bad date in all senses, as we had a lovely night eventually. But a head gasket, hitching and meeting the folks in one day certainly made it interesting. I went on a coffee date with a guy who seemed interesting. We sat down, and the waitress came over. He ordered a coffee and I ordered a soy cappuccino. His face looked like I had offended his ancestors. He looks at the waitress and says, "She will have normal milk." The waitress shot me a glance and luckily, when my cappuccino came, it was soy. Thank God. Meanwhile, He started on about how I really wasn't the kind of girl he normally dated, and if this was going to work I would need to get a new job and work on my morals. I worked in it. I finished my coffee, politely told him to shove it and left. It was the most absurd date I'd ever been on. I wouldn't give up soy milk especially for a date. He didn't even ask why I drink soy. I'm lactose intolerant, but I think he assumed I was vegan. The first date was okay. Good banter. We went out again, and he was very eager. During the second date, I told him let's take it slow. I had 2 uni assignments due and my best friend was visiting and staying with me, so I might not be able to meet him for 3 weeks. He seemed cool about it. The weekend that my best friend was due to arrive, he called up and cracked it. He said if I don't come and see him that weekend he is ending it. If I was going to behave like that, then we probably wouldn't be able to get married by the end of the year. I was like, what did you just say? We met twice, and you're organizing our wedding? I told him that I had my priorities right, my uni and my besties. That was the end of that. I met him at a nightclub. This big, gangly, goofy, farmer type. I'm on him pretty quick. We get in a taxi to go to mine. He goes to pay. No wallet. Can't find it. Cool. I pay. I've come this far. So we do the deed, and the next morning, I can't get rid of the hunk. I have to drop him off at the nearest Macca's to be picked up by friends. They are jumping out of their seats to get a glimpse. It turns out his wallet is actually lost. I start to feel a little bad and cut him some slack for not producing the wallet in the first instance. Farm boy leaves. He lives further out of the city than I do, but he gets a call later that same day from someone. This person lives 3 blocks away from me and says he has the missing wallet. Hearing this, farm boy sends me on a mission to collect it. His excuse? He doesn't have his car and he's got a long drive home with his friends to get it. I feel a little peculiar about it, but hey, whatever, let's go on an adventure. I get to the wallet finder's house still in my club gear, which I've been snoozing in hungover all morning. This guy looks at me like he's hit the jackpot. He's telling me to come inside to collect the wallet. I've got the actual worst vibes. I'm instantly furious that I've gone on this mission to this creep's house. Also, I'm really still hungover. I tell him to produce the wallet or I'll call the police, and no, I'm not coming inside. I get farm boy's wallet. I then message farm boy and tell him I've got the damn wallet and that the guy was a huge creep to me. Farm boy's like, oh, you are really attractive. Haha. Haha. That wasn't the response I was looking for. I tell him to pick the thing up from me himself. He takes ages to get there. Rural life. When he finally picks it up, he looks inside and accuses me of stealing $150 in cash. No mate. Thanks for thinking I did it. After I produce a fairly abrasive rebuttal, he puts his head down a little bit and asks when he'll see me again. Mate, never. He tried to add me on Facebook. Still pending. We were in grade 7 art class, and the class clown was going to every girl asking to take them to the movies on a date. Everyone said no, but I said, yeah, why not pal? Definitely wasn't feeling any butterflies, but this was the first time a boy had ever asked me out. Our mums dropped us off, and we had a fun time. Held hands and everything, like adults do. At the end, I ended up bumping into a friend from school and we challenged each other to a race up the escalators. I had got halfway to the top when suddenly, I slipped and fell face forward. The elevator spikes penetrated both of my kneecaps. I was in absolute screaming agony. Luckily, there was a doctor in the food court below who witnessed everything and helped me. My date came up to me and says, my mum's here, so I'm gonna go. See you in school. And left me. I texted him that night on my brick Nokia that I hated him. I then blocked him. I had to hobble around school with crutches. Everyone found out what happened. It's been 14 years, and I'm glad there haven't been any dates worse than that one.